here to speak to you about our efforts both in Meta and Oxford to build a foundation, to be a foundation for AI. So first of all, I'd like to explain myself a bit and set out the stage for the rest of the presentation. So what do I mean 3D foundation of AI? So if you look at this, oops, that was supposed to happen. So if you look at the slides, that's an image that I took from Vision, which is a book by David Marr from 1982. This is really the beginning of our discipline, if you like. And if you want to open up his book, maybe page 3 or 4, you find this. And so obviously this is a call to 3D and 3D interpretation of data. And so at the time, the belief was that in order to do any interesting computer vision, any interesting interpretation of images, the first step would have been to take an image, which is a 2D projection of the 3D world, and reconstructing that image in 3D, having a mental model of the 3D structure that you see with your eyes. And this was thought to be propedeutic, to actually be able to do any interesting image processing on top of that. But if you fast forward 20 years later, actually things pan out in a very different way. So to the left here, what you see is a representation of illustration of very visual words. It was a model which was introduced at the beginning of the century. The idea there was to just decompose an image into 2D patches and put those into a classifier. At the time, it wasn't a deep network, it was a superconducting machine. And that would allow you to solve tasks like, for example, image classification. All right? So here there is no 3D per se. The image is seen as 2D pattern is fed into a machine, which is learned, superconducting machine, and then you get your answer. To the right, you see what happened 20 years later after that. That's a transformer. Same story. So you take an image, you decompose that into patches. Now the machine that you put on top of that is much more complex. It's a transformer, it's not a superconducting machine anymore. But still the image is seen as a two-dimensional entity. And with that, you can do great things. Certainly you can do image interpretation very well. But there's no explicit 3D there. So why do we need 3D? And why I'm trying to promote the idea that it would be very good to have 3D as a foundation of AI and machine intelligence. Well, I think, to me, the main answer to that is that this is propedeutic to spatial intelligence.